The anime was opened by showing a free trade city, where, in the market, there was a commotion between people who claimed to be royal envoys and traders who were selling. On the other hand, a girl who knew about the incident immediately approached them and chased away the person who was making a commotion. She was Cecily Campbell, a member of the city's Defense Night Squad. Not far from where Cecily was currently standing, a commotion occurred, which revealed a former knight who was dressed in very dull clothes, Jack Strader. He continued to go berserk and swung his sword at objects around him and screamed about something that made him very afraid. Cecily, who happened to be at the scene, tried to stop the rampage, but there was not much a beginner could do. It seemed like the obvious difference in strength had Cecily cornered and thrown over and over again. Luckily, she was saved by a man who also happened to be there. He was Luke Ainsworth, a blacksmith whose sword could cut a knight's sword. After defeating the former knight, Luke chose to leave straight away. Meanwhile, Cecily, whose sword was broken, took the sword to a weapons craftsman. However, the owner said that Cecily's sword could no longer be repaired. If it could be repaired, the sword would definitely not be able to be used in battle. Hearing this, Cecily suddenly remembered the sword Luke used and asked where the young man lived. Finally, Cecily went to a village and came to Luke's house. There, she met Lisa, the girl who accompanied Luke when they met at the market. After introducing herself, Cecily thanked Luke for helping her. Apart from that, Cecily also asked him to make a sword the same as Luke's. However, Luke refused on the pretext that their family had not received orders for swords since his father, Basil Ainsworth, died. Right after Luke said that, a bell rang, which was a sign of danger around the village. Then the scene moved into the forest, which showed a group of knights fighting several mutants. Many of them were killed because of the huge difference in strength. Cecily, Luke, and Lisa, who also knew about this, finally came and saw several people lying helpless. Apart from that, they also saw mutants roaming around, which made Cecily immediately move forward without thinking. Luckily, Luke managed to save her right before she was killed. On the other hand, Cecily, who saw Luke's strange fighting style, felt a little surprised because, in the current era, she had never seen a single person fight by dodging every attack that came their way. Even Luke's sword movements and slashes were so smooth and looked deadly. Just after they were about to leave the place, suddenly, from a very far direction, there was an explosion accompanied by a strange-looking light. Parts of the forest were frozen like it was winter. This made Luke realize that someone had made a contract with the demon and was causing chaos there. Luke, who saw the terrible creature standing in front of him, quickly used the ability he had to make a sword until the fight was no longer inevitable. The fight ended, and Luke won. However, the grateful Cecily accidentally knocked on her chest and caused the cracked shield to fall apart. The next day, Cecily came back to Luke's house to apologize. But Luke, who was already dilapidated from being beaten by Cecily, was angry and thought that what he had seen was not his fault. Then the scene moved to the kingdom, where a meeting was taking place between 3 heads of state and a city leader. They discussed Luke, who again didn't come to the meeting. Apart from that, they also discussed the recent appearance of demons around the city. This reminded them of what happened 44 years ago in a very terrible war incident. They were worried that the appearance of the demon was a sign of Valbanil's awakening. If Valbanil revived, it was certain that the world would be destroyed, and the only way to prevent the world's destruction was to get the Holy Sword as quickly as possible. Then the scene was cut back to Luke and Lisa, who was forging iron to make a knife. Cecily, who saw this from behind the door, was so amazed by what they had done. At home, Luke explained that making katana was very different from making swords usually used by knights. To make it required a lot of dedication, and many things that ordinary people may not be able to understand. Cecily said again, sincerely, about her desire to have Luke make a katana. This made Luke melt a little. Finally, he was willing to forge a sword for Cecily as long as she was willing to pay for it. However, when Luke said all the costs had to be covered, Cecily was shocked. Luke did not accept installments and wants payment to be made in advance. Then moving to the kingdom, Cecily, who couldn't afford to pay Luke, who decided not to make her a katana, returned to the kingdom, angry. After that, she was visited by Commander Hannibal Quasar, who said that he would convey the special mission he would give to Cecily. Her mission was none other than guarding a magic sword, which was a royal heirloom. But when they arrived at the intended place, Cecily was met by a woman named Aria. There, Cecily, who was confused, asked about the location of the items she was going to guard. Aria said that she was the item in question because Aria's form was a magic sword that was born 44 years ago. In the afternoon, Cecily returned to Luke's residence and asked Lisa to accompany her to a place to eat. However, the fight between Cecily and Luke made the two of them look like lovers in Aria's eyes. Apart from that, Cecily announced another purpose for her visit, which was to show off a magic sword that she was carrying. Finally, Aria showed her true self.
風をこの手に、神を殺せ。になっちゃいました。
これは珍しいな。
負けんアリア。さすが、話が早いな。
After leaving Luke's residence, Cecily, Aria, and Lisa ate together at a restaurant. Only after that did they walk towards the kingdom. On the way, Aria said that she first woke up in the middle of the Valbanil battlefield, which was around 44 years ago. At that time, Aria's form was still a sword. She didn't know who brought it and why she was there. All she knew was that many people had died from her slashes. The next day, in the morning when there was still dew floating in the air, Cecily, who was practicing swordsmanship, was visited by Aria, who had just woken up from her sleep. There was a conversation between them regarding Cecily's slashing style. This made Aria say that Cecily was practicing the movements needed to use Luke's katana, which she thought was quite strange. Cecily thought that if she wanted to use it well, then she had to master it first. After finishing practice, Cecily decided to go to the city center and look at the preparations for the exhibition that would be held tomorrow morning. There, she met Commander Hannibal and Hugo Houseman, who told her that Cecily would perform a magic sword act at the exhibition. This surprised Cecily, and the sudden notification meant she couldn't practice first. The next day, accompanied by Lisa, Luke came to the exhibition and looked for a magic sword that he could use to kill the gods. However, even though exhibitions had been held several times, Luke still had not succeeded in finding the sword. On the other hand, Cecily, who was tense, tried to put on the best performance with Aria on stage. But, shortly after the show started, Cecily saw a knight that Luke had previously defeated at the market in the middle of the crowd, Jack. This made her panicked. Moreover, she also saw an unusual magical reaction coming from Jack. Finally, Jack turned into a fire demon and starts ruining the whole show. Even Aria, who was currently in Cecily's grasp, was captured and used to expand his attack area. A few days after the demon appeared in the city, Lisa woke up very early, as usual. Because their house was located among residents' plantations, there were many things Lisa could do in the morning, starting from helping to fetch water from the well, delivering orders for knives, to carrying baskets of harvest given by residents. After that, Lisa could return home, wash, cook, and wake Luke, who was still asleep. In the afternoon, Cecily and Aria visited Luke's residence to have lunch together. There, Luke confirmed once again that he would never make Cecily a katana because Cecily had not paid in advance. Apart from that, they also discussed the contract with the demon, which Luke himself knew that the contract was carried out by offering human flesh as an intermediary. Demon contracts were first used in the Valbanil War 40 years ago, where almost every human who took part in the war turned into a demon. Humans could carry out this contract by opening their chests and reading the death verse engraved on their hearts. But there was one other case where someone could force another person to make a contract, and that was something very dangerous. In the afternoon, Cecily, Aria, and Lisa, accompanied by Luke, went to the exhibition to buy some equipment. While walking, Cecily asked about Luke and Lisa's relationship. Moreover, Lisa had an important role in every activity that Luke had done. In the afternoon, after returning from the exhibition, Luke and Lisa walked hand in hand. There, Lisa continued to ask Luke to talk, but Luke always answered all these questions with a very cold answer and tone. This made Lisa feel very sad. Finally, when they arrived at a bridge, Lisa dared to ask Luke's opinion about the clothes she had just bought. Luke paused for a moment, then turned around and handed her a hat that matched the outfit. This incident made Lisa cry. She didn't expect that Luke could pay so much attention to her. The next day in the city, Cecily and Aria were chased by 3 people in black robes, 2 of whom were magic sword users named Doris and Margot. Apart from that, another person was a weapon user who was no less dangerous, namely Penelope, a knife user who could neutralize all attacks that come from a magic sword. On the other hand, at Luke's residence, Lisa was visited by 2 of their women, Charlotte Frobisher and Evadne, who claimed to be from the royal family. Charlotte arrogantly said that she had come there to pick up Luke and told him to pack up immediately. However, Luke, who didn't care, coldly told Charlotte to leave his house immediately. Charlotte, who didn't accept it, asked Evadne to turn into a sword. Turned out that Evadne was also a magic sword. However, because Charlotte wasn't good at using it, she was defeated by Luke very easily.
エバドに眠りをほどけ神を殺すその呪文は刃は肉をえぐり参るバカな今の
Charlotte said that her 3 subordinates were after the magic sword currently held by Cecily. Hearing that, Luke hurried to go to the city immediately. Arriving in the city, Luke managed to defeat the 3 people who attacked Cecily, when the 3 of them were careless because they felt that they had succeeded in getting the magic sword that Cecily was holding. Then not long after, Luke took them and Charlotte to face Hugo. In Hugo's large room, there was quite a heated conversation between Cecily and Charlotte, who continued to insist on bringing Aria back to the kingdom. This made Hugo wonder because he felt unsure of Charlotte. If Charlotte really had royal blood, then the king would not have sent his daughter out of the palace. Charlotte said that she and her mother had actually been expelled from the kingdom for reasons she didn't know. However, she had confidence that if she succeeded in bringing Aria's magic sword and the blacksmith before the king, then they would be able to restore her mother's reputation. As proof of what she said, Charlotte handed over a sword engraved with the initials of the royal family to check its authenticity. However, to be able to confirm this, Hugo needed quite a long time. During the required time, Charlotte asked permission to stay at Cecily's residence because the woman was a knight, which meant her residence was on a different level compared to other people. This is the end of Seiken No Blacksmith Part 1. Thank you very much for staying on this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you up to date with our latest content. See you in the next video.